You're welcome to yet another interesting section of this soft skills training, and we're going to be looking at the topic searching for job and writing a winning CV. So before we go right into this, don't forget that you're supposed to take your pre-test at this link. Go ahead and take your pre-test at this link. And once again, my name is Ezinye Uzoije, and I'll be taking you through this training. Now, let's talk about what we mean by this topic searching for job and writing a winning CV. Well, job searching is not just about finding any job at all, but finding the right job for you. Now, the right job for you is one that is a good fit for you now and in the future. This is because a lot of people, maybe because they are desperate, they really want to say they are working somewhere, they go ahead to take on jobs that have nothing to do with their skill set and career path. They're not interested in the job, it's just to have a pay. And most times, the mistake they also make is they're not checking what sort of experience would they be gathering from that job. And most times the pay also is not even commensurate to how much they're spending to go to work. So you could see somebody that their transportation cost is way more than the salary, and it's not an internship, it's a proper job, but then it's structured in a way that it's not even really going to benefit them beyond the pay. So this section is going to ensure that you are not one of those people that could make such mistakes. We will want you to be able to apply to jobs that are tailored to you, that can be the best fit for you right from the beginning. Right. So, even if you have already made up your mind to begin your own business, this topic will be very important for you because I've also seen government officials, politicians that have needed to, you know, hand off a CV before they're given a position. So even though at that point it could be important for you to, pay someone else, pay organizations, actually write a CV for you would notice in those cases they will still ask you certain questions, and this would help you to actually be documenting your own progress as you journey on. So this part is very important. Whether or not you're going to be looking for a job, you're supposed to understand how to write your own CV, so that even if someone else is going to be helping you write it, you know the exact clues, the exact words to actually hand off to the person to help the person do a great job at it. Okay, so we're going to be looking at what a CV is, the tips for writing a winning CV, the formats for writing a winning CV, and then tips for an effective job search. Now let's begin. Look at this image very well. What do you see? You see two words there, curriculum vitae and resume. Now, these two words, do you think they are the same thing? Do you think when someone says, send me a CV, send me a resume, I feel the same thing? Go ahead and tell me right now what you think in the comment section. Just drop, what do you think? Are they the same thing? Do you think CV and resume are the same thing? If you think so, drop yes in the comment section. If you think no, drop no in the comment section. All right, so let's continue. Actually, resume is different. A resume is different from a CV. Now, resume is a brief document, is usually not longer than one page, and it covers the summary of a person's qualifications, their skills, and their achievements. So the word here for resume is the brevity. It's a very brief document, usually not longer than one page. And you see that it's basically a summary of the person's qualifications, skills, and achievements. Then what about CV? What's a CV? How is it different from a resume? All right. So now CV is a Latin word and it means course of life in Latin. And it is a written overview of a person's experience, their education, their qualification, and other accomplishments like publications, awards, honors for a job opportunity. Are you noticing the difference between the two right now? So you would notice that while the other one is brief, it's just basically asking for qualifications, skills, achievements. With CV, there is a focus on awards, right? Honors, publications, right? So this is basically what you see with a CV. Now, there are tips for writing a winning CV, and we're going to be looking at them one after the other. Number one is to create a layout for your CV. The first thing is to create a layout for your CV. So, what do you mean by layout? Is a template. How do you want the CV to be? Sometimes people make the mistake of just listing out things. I've actually seen that before. Someone just on a sheet of paper listed out, my name, my this, it was like there was no template, there was no format. So, take a good look at this image right here. If you look at this, you see that there's a format it takes. And immediately you see it, you train your eyes to actually look for details in this order. All right. So you need to choose a template, create a layout for the CV. When you create a layout, it's a lot simpler and easier for you to be able to fill in details for your CV. Sometimes you can actually find free layouts on Google when you just search for one, and you can use your MS Word document and create one. If you're also skilled in using Canva, you can actually use Canva to create a layout for your CV. Now, the next thing is to focus on your wins. What do I mean by wins? We all know that some jobs don't really come with a lot of wins every time. There may be targets that are set for you that you do not meet up to. That's not really, it's not on your CV that you really need to focus on that. What you need to focus on is what are the things that you succeeded at? What are the things that you delivered on well? Those are the things you need to focus on and highlight on your CV. All right. The next thing is tailor your CV to the requirements of the role advertised. Now, this is very important. Most of the time, you would see that a career path is not really straightforward. So maybe the first job you may get may not really be the ideal job that you wanted. And next one right after it may be the ideal one you wanted. And the one you want to apply to is more in line with the one that is just that with your very last role. So in that case, if the first one that you actually worked at is very much off, you can actually leave it out. You can tailor your CV to just include the job roles that can actually highlight the requirements of the role advertised. Another place you also need to ensure that you tailor your CV to the requirements of the role advertised is in your skill set. So if you know that you are a multi-passionate, multi-skilled person, you're good in, you're good in back-end development, you're also good in social media management, you're also good in graphic design, but you know that the job you're applying for is back-end development. You may need to not really include all those details about social media and graphics design. Tailor it to your job role that you're actually applying for. Pay more attention to focusing your skill set on back-end development. What are the other skills that would enable your employers to see that you're a good fit for that role that is being advertised? Then another thing is to use measurables in your CV. So measurables are things like numbers. So were you able to meet some sales targets? How much? Right? You can say you were able to improve sales by 20%, for instance, right? Or in your profile, you can explain that you have about 20, 2 years experience in a specific career path. Now that's measurable, is specific and measurable. So ensure that you are putting in measurables where necessary. Another thing is to include your hobbies and interests towards the end of the CV. Now, remember, we're talking about CV, not resume. Hobbies and interests don't come on top of your CV. Most times, some people will go ahead and start writing hobbies at the top. No, it should be towards the end. So, if you are writing a CV that is up to 2 pages, 3 pages, don't write it on your first page. Write it at the very end, because you want the first page to be able to capture the attention of the person reading it, and you want the attention of the person to be focused on your skill set, your job role, your previous job roles, and not really your interests and hobbies, because that may not really be of great interest to the person that wants to hire you. So ensure that you include your hobbies and interests towards the end of the CV and not at the beginning. The next tip is that you can choose to disclose your referees or not at the end of your CV. So what this means is that if you don't want to add your referees at the end of your CVs just yet, you could mention referees available on request at the bottom of the CV. But if you want to actually add referees, then that's fine. Just remember that you have to notify whoever you list as your referee so that they don't get unnecessary surprises that they did not prepare for. Another thing is to pay attention to font choice and font size. So um, you would notice that some series, maybe the fonts are a bit really small, but don't go overboard with it. Don't go to the extent of using font size 6 that someone would need, you know, like a microscope to see it, right? So make sure that your font size is actually a little bit in between size 10 and 12, right? And then font choices, the most that are usually used for CVs are either Times New Roman, Arial, or Calibri. So these are the ones that really look professional. Don't go use something that is like handwriting font and it will be difficult to read. So the very next thing is to always review your CV for grammatical and typographical errors. Remember that this is something you're going to be sending out. So remove any typographical error. And how will you even notice typographical errors is when you sit down and review it. Sometimes take the pains of sending it to someone else, maybe a third eye, to look into it, and they could help you fish out some errors that are on that CV. So look at this CV very well. This is an example of a CV. And if you look here, there's a professional profile here. The core skills are listed here. Then the career summary. So I want you to pay attention to something. This career summary here says February 2010. So you see that is a reverse the chronological order used is based on the last job role had. If you look here, you see October 2007 and 2010. So what this means is that let's say you started working since 2010, right? Your first job here shouldn't be that first job that you did. The first job that should be seen here should be the very last job that you did. Maybe the last job you did in 2019 or 2020, because you want the person that is looking at your CV to actually see that you've progressed. The last job that you did should be your best job so far in your career per se. So you want the person to read down from there. So pay attention to this chronological order thing. Now, another thing is um, right here, you would notice that this is the educational qualifications that are listed. And now look at what we mentioned about references being available on requests. Now, this is a CV, and this person did not include things like honors, awards, publications, just like we mentioned that a CV should have. But what I'm trying to point out is that if you don't have all those things just yet, that is still fine, right? But if you have it, you should, and it's relevant to the role you're applying for, you should include it. If you also have volunteer opportunities that you've volunteered in some places, you can put it here as your community or volunteer experience, right? So let's look at this format of a winning CV one after the other. So the very first thing is your career objective or your professional summary. A career objective is like the summarized account of who you are as a professional, and it must be tailored to the job description. So, if you know that you have interest in, let's say, customer service, marketing, and sales, if you're applying for the one for customer service, it needs to be tailored to customer service. If you're applying for the one for marketing, it needs to be tailored to marketing, and all of that. Don't do a generalized career objective. It will not hit the point that you really want to make with the person that is reviewing your CV. Then you can also state your total years of experience. So if you've had about 4 years of experience in your field, you can put it there, right? And always make sure that your career objective or your professional summary captures your enthusiasm for the job and is based on the words that you use. All right. Then also make sure that you include soft skills that you have. So soft skills could be result driven and international professional. So are you seeing right here that soft skills are really important in job applications like this? So let's look at this very well, right? This is the career professional, the professional summary of this person. So you're seeing how you can see the English and everything and how it still showcases the person's soft skills. Person said, I am highly organized, efficient, personable, and able to deliver consistently high results in challenging and pressurized work environment. And you see that at the end of the day, you've seen the enthusiasm the person has for the job role he's applying for. The trick here is not to copy anything that you see on someone else's CV. Make sure that it's personable to you. Make sure that whatever you're stating there is something that really applies to you. Because most times, people that interview you may go ahead to query some things that they see there. So, for instance, you may say that you're able to work under pressure, and they will put you under pressure for you to prove that. So ensure that whatever you put there, it's really something that is attributed to you, not because you just want to put it there. All right, so we see it here in detail again. We see it here in detail again. The very next thing is the personal details. Now, the personal details consist of your name, your address, your age, and the age is not really always compulsory, phone number, and email. Now, one thing I want you to understand is that sometimes, if you're actually applying for something and there's a job call, there was a call for that job entry, you may see that in the call there are specifications of what you should put on your CV. Some will tell you ensure that you put your age and your state of origin and LGA. Now, if whatever application you're applying for has that specification, then you put that in. But if it doesn't, you can skip it. You can decide not to put your age and your LGA and state of origin, even your marital status. You don't really need to put it. You want people to make decisions on your skills, right? And qualifications, and not really on your religion or your marital status or your age. So pay attention to that. All those things don't really need to be on your CV unless it was specified that you should put that in. Then remember to always put in fonts. And sometimes I know in this CV you are saying that the location that was put there is just London. Sometimes you may be required to be specific, say the street, say the number of the house you live at. So pay attention to that. And most times for people that may be applying to places like Lagos, it's important that you specify exactly where in Lagos, because sometimes if you're in Ogun State and you're applying to a company in Lagos, they may decide that the stress for you to be coming from Ogun State is a bit too much, and that could be something that disqualifies you. So ensure that you put in a strategic location that may be close to where you're actually applying to. Let's say you have a friend or a relative, you can use the person's location for a while if you get that job. So you can put in that location there. Now, also, there's something you need to understand when it comes to emails. You need to make sure that your emails are not funny emails, right? Don't use things like obiswag10 at syz.com. What's your name, right? Use your name. So, for example, my name is Izini Uzoije. My email is iziniuzoije@gmail.com. Very simple, all right? So, it's something that you need to pay attention to. Those emails that you opened 10 years ago, that was emails that followed your secondary school nicknames and all of that, they're not really going to be professional when you're applying for jobs. And apart from it not being professional, you also run the risk of having some words and numbers that you put there being misunderstood. So, for instance, Obi Swag 10, if the person may not look very well and think that Obi Swag 10 is actually Obi Swag IO, and it goes to another person. Just imagine that you're supposed to be getting a confirmation to resume work and it's been sent to the wrong person because you did not actually get your email in a professional manner. So pay attention to this. If you have an email that is funny like this, go ahead right now after the session and change it. Create one that is in your name. Okay, create one that is in your name. Very important. So let's continue. Academic qualifications are important. It's like something that you need to put in your CV. Always start with your most recent educational qualification. So just like I showed you with your work experience, always start with your most recent work experience. That's the same thing you need to do with your educational qualification. So for instance, here, assign University of Port Harcourt 2013 qualification, BA History and International Relations. And then these are maybe some extra skills that were gained on this journey at University of Port Harcourt. So it was skills in foreign languages, and then the person graduated with a first class and won the best graduating award. Now, in this situation, this information is already placing this person as a highly valued person. And so, if it's a job that really cares about hiring first class and best graduating students, then they may pick interest based on this. But there's also something to bear in mind. Um, if you're actually going to be putting your educational and academic qualifications, it's not really necessary for you to put the primary school that you went to or your primary school first living certificate, right? You know, that first school living certificate that you needed to go into secondary school. You don't really need to specify it on your CV. Now, why am I saying this? Especially if you have already gone to a tertiary institution, if you already have university, polytechnic, college of education, training, there's no need including your first school living certificate details there, because the most important thing is, oh, you have some tertiary institution knowledge. So most of the time you would notice that what is important for your CV is only tertiary institution information. So if you don't have any tertiary institution education, you can go ahead and include your secondary school only. That is your WASE or your NICO, whatever graduating certificate that you have. Then also ensure that in your academic qualifications, things like professional certifications can come under that, or affiliations, or trainings, or seminars, certifications, any certification that you've gotten at all, you can put it there. So, if you have certifications from maybe an online course that is repeatable, you're affiliated to a renowned society, or there is a professional body, you can put it there. Then, importantly, if you're going to be including your class for your degree, then ensure that it's a strong one. Don't go ahead and put a third class. If you made a third class, there's nothing wrong with that right now. But if you made a third class, it's not on your CV that you need to make that information public. Remember that your CV is about highlighting your strengths. So obviously, at that point, a third class may not be a strength for you. So you can just go ahead and write only the university and the date and remove the degree. Even these days, a lot of people that have a good second class upper don't put it at all, because there's also a rule of thumb that says after 5 years, people want to judge you maybe based on your experience in the fields and not what you really did in school. They want to judge based on experience in your workplace, your recent job experiences, and not really based on what you studied in school. So if you're going to be including your class, make sure it's a strong one, a first class, second class, or right? And also remember to understand when this may no longer be necessary for your CV. Then avoid indicating the grades that you scored. So if you made a second class upper that was almost a first class, don't go ahead and write 4.34 just because you want to push the point that you almost made a first class and you made state, right? Just leave that out. Also, don't break down the units that you did in school. And a lot of schools do multiple units, running into 60 something units. Don't go ahead and say you have some units that you covered in mechanical engineering, in this and that. That's not necessary. You'll be wasting a lot of space. What's important is that you've captured that you went to a school and that you are out. So keep that in mind. Now let's look at work experience. Work experience is you also need to start with your most recent job role. And for each job role, you need to state your role, that is what you were doing at that job, your responsibilities, and then your achievements. Then it's important to always tweak your job experience in line with what you're applying for. It will increase the employer's preference for you. So remember where I mentioned that if you've had multiple job experiences, but most of them are not related to that job you're applying to, you can go ahead and leave them off. Most times, recruitment professionals may ask you, "Oh, why is there a time gap between this role and this other role?" And you can go ahead and explain to them that you worked at so place and maybe it's not really in line with what you're applying for. So keep that in mind. So let's look at this example. This is an example of a work experience that was specified. And this here is the company the person worked at. Is currently working at Iceberg Communications Limited 2016 to present. And the job title is Marketing Executive. And it states this place should actually be where the person states what the person was doing at Iceberg. Okay, so here, instead of talking about Iceberg Communications, you can go ahead and talk about your role. But as a marketing executive, maybe you were responsible for helping to market Iceberg's electrical home appliances. Okay, then go ahead and state your achievements. What did you achieve? Why you were at this role or at this role that you're still at? So it's important that you, as you're working in any way you're working in, try and quantify your achievements quarterly. That by quarterly, I mean every 3 months or every 4 months. Itemize, okay, what have I achieved at this job so far? And it's important because as you leave that job, you will need to quantify what all those years that you spent at that job has helped you. What have you been able to bring out for that organization? What results did you bring for them? Were you of value to them? Because that's what the next employer will be checking for. So you're seeing that this person said individually increased monthly revenue from 15 million to 25 million in 6 months. So you're seeing those measurables that we talked about is coming out here. If this person had mentioned individually increase the monthly revenue only, then you would not have noticed the impact. Measurables ensure that you get the impact very well. So putting in 15 million to 25 million in 6 months added more flesh to it. So always ensure that as you're recording your progress in your jobs, there's more flesh to it. And I mentioned that you can also put in your volunteer experiences. So even if you are going to be saying you volunteered at so events, at so community projects, that's not all there is to it. What did you achieve? You can go ahead and state that you were able to improve outreach for the event, maybe from 200 people that used to attend the events to when you came in 1000 people now attended the event. It depends on what role that you played at that volunteer opportunity. Now this gives you an idea of what a work experience should look like on a CV. So have you been enjoying this session so far? Have you been enjoying it so far? Let me know in the comments section. And let's go over to your key competencies and skills. This is a very important component on your CV. Most times people just go ahead and just look at your key skills before they start looking at your qualifications and work experience, right? So also ensure that as you're listing your key skills that they are related to the job description. All right. Make sure that the key skills are related to the job description. On for example, if you're applying to be a developer at an organization, even if you're such a great cook, that's not really the best place to put it there, because they're not really hiring you as a cook, they're hiring you as a developer, right? So ensure that you actually list key skills and competencies that are related to the job description they're applying for. Then list both technical and soft skills. This is in order to ensure that as the employer reads your CV, he can be able to discern you and have a good grasp of both. So, what do I mean by technical and soft skills? So, if you're good in digital marketing, social media management, content creation, um, designing with Figma, all those things. You can use Adobe XD and all that. That's technical skills. Soft skills are different. Okay. So with soft skills, you can mention how great of a team player you are, or how awesome you are at communicating. Then furthermore, you need to understand that you should avoid giving one word pointers for your soft skills. Don't say accounting skills, communication skills, computer literacy, just like that. Try as much as possible to put it in statements. So when you are saying communication skills, you could say excellent oral and written communication skills acquired throughout my career. So when you're saying it in that way, it's like a phrase, it's like a statement that makes it personable. It doesn't seem like you just copied it from the internet and you put it in there. All right. It feels like it's something that can be attributed to a personality. Then always ensure that your key competencies and soft skills come immediately after your academic background. So try not to relegate it to the very bottom, right? Remember that those places could be important for hobbies and interests, but this is very important for the job role that you're applying for. So ensure that it's visible after the academic background. Now let's look at achievements. For every place that you've worked at, just like I mentioned, it's important that you achieve something, you have value to that workplace. So you need to itemize what have you achieved in the last few months, the last few years of work, where you're working at, what were your achievements. All right. So if you don't have any achievements, you need to really sit down and think about it. You will come up with something definitely. And in case you're wondering, oh, well, I don't really have some tangible work experience, right? We can look at what are your volunteer experiences like? What were your achievements at that volunteer experience? Or you could say, oh, I don't have either of that, it too. Then when you were in school, what were you able to achieve, right? So, for instance, if you're still here and you're saying you don't have any work experience, you don't have any volunteer experience, then what were you able to achieve in school, all right? Um, it could be different things. So, even as much as being a part of this fellowship, and maybe you're your your the representative for your track, that's still something. What were you able to motivate everybody in your track to be attentive? That's still something. All right, pick up something that shows your qualities, maybe in leadership or in that job role that you're trying to apply to. So ensure that you list relevant achievements and be very specific. You can list between 1 to 3 achievements on your CV. Now, the next thing is your referees. Your referees can be up to 3. Most of the time, it's usually up to 3 that is required. If you're going to be including referees at all, ensure that they are up to 3. If you're not going to be including it, just indicate that it will be available on request and work on getting up to 3 people that can be your referees in your CV. Now, who can be your referees in your CV? It's usually people that you've known professionally. So, if you've worked somewhere, usually your past employers or your past line managers, people that you were reporting to directly, they could be your referees. If you've never worked anywhere but you've volunteered, the head of that organization you volunteered at, the lead volunteer, maybe the person that was organizing the volunteer team, can be your referee. If you've never volunteered or worked anywhere, you can have academic referees too. So the place that you schooled at, your lecturers can be your volunteer. All right. So it's important that whoever is going to be a volunteer can actually vouch and attest to you. You need to build at least some personal or close to personal relationship with those people. Let them be able to hear your name and say, "Oh yes, I know this person," and all that. Because most of the time, the importance of having referees on your CV is because if you actually get a job somewhere, those are the people that are going to be called up, and they can just call out your name and say, "Oh, do you know so 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 person?" And if they answer yes, they will ask them, "How is the person's character? This person is going to be hired for this role. Are you aware of the person's skills in that role?" So it's always important that you update people that you use as referees of your new skill sets, especially if they don't really know that you're doing something like this. Let them know, "Oh, this is what I'm getting into. I now understand how to design with WordPress, and I understand how to do this and that. So I'm putting you as my referee. In case you're called, please don't forget to attest to that." Then also remember that you need to notify anybody that you shortlist as your referee. Don't just write people's names and then they're getting called up and they're confused. Don't write the name of someone that is popular. And anyway, when you're actually writing referees, you notice that you need to include their phone numbers and emails. So this already forces you to have to, approach those people and notify them. So now let's look at this. We've come to a point where we've fully covered all of these things, right? We've looked at what professional profile is, core skills are, career summary, education, and personal details. Now, which of these do you think would fall into any of these segments, right? What do you think should be in core skills? Which of these numbers here should be in career summary? Which of these numbers here should be in any of these places? So you can pause this video right now and take this little exercise. You want to make sure that you fully understood what each place should have. Pause it. Pause this video right now. It's important for you. Do the exercise. When you're finished with it, you can send a screenshot to the Slack channel. Send it. Let it be all fun. Let us all see what your progress is like. Okay, have you paused it? Because you should pause it right now. Right. So this is the results of what you just did. Did you get it this way? If you didn't, then take your correction. This is the results. This is where everything should be at. So I hope it's quite clear to you right now. You can go ahead and take corrections or upload yourself if you did it right. Also, let us know in the Slack channel, did you get it right? Okay, let us know right now. Now let's look at searching for a job. We've understood how to write a winning CV. So when you finish writing that CV, the next thing is to make sure that that CV gets you a job. Now, how do you go about searching for a job? What is the process like? I know in old Nollywood movies, you usually see people that are walking up and down the streets with brown envelope, worn out shoes, looking for a job. Is that still the mental picture you have about jobs? Okay, now let's look at what goes on with searching for a job. So there are numerous places where you can search for a job in Nigeria, and there are tips that you need to bear in mind for an effective job search. So the very first is that you need to decide on what you want to do. Get clear on what you want to do. A lot of people sometimes they jeopardize their chances of getting a job because they start with saying anything is fine, any job is fine, right? Any job is not likely going to suit you well. So get clear, what do you want to do? When you have certain skills, you need to get clear on what kind of job roles those skills are going to be relevant for. So you can actually go ahead and take a career quiz online. They're usually free ones online and all that. But ensure that you familiarize yourself with the job roles that match your experience, the job roles that match your skills and interests. All right. You need to understand where are the places that people with your skill set ideally work at. Right. So the next thing is to make use of your network. What do I mean by your network? The people you know, the people that you can approach, all right? Both physical and virtual. So there are people that you know physically in your church, in your former workplace, at your school, your parents' friends, you know, your siblings' friends. Those are your network. You also need to build your own personal network. People that you can approach, older people, people that are your mates per se, that can know more about the company that you've applied for a job. Some people know things, some people know things, and when you actually open up to them and let them know, oh, I'm looking out for a job, or I applied at this place, they can give you extra tips, right? Also, remember that your network must not be physical, it can also be virtual. So, are you active on Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and name it? You need to actually approach some people there, network intelligently, ask questions, right? Comment regularly on key people that actually seem to have positions in certain places, and that could get you notified, that could get you your chances of getting employment high. So the thing about using your network is that you use your network to get insider information about the job. It's not that you go ahead and tell them, oh, I want to work, get me a job. That's not how you approach it. But you could ask guided questions like, oh, I'm interested in working at so company. Does anybody have some tips that could help me? It's already projects you as intelligent. You can go further ahead and say, do your research on that company, and then come on with some clarification, make it clearer, have so skills and all that, and ask for people's questions. Depending on the way you structure your question, people will be very eager to help you. But again, as I said, don't come on with the I'm looking for a job, help me, and it can really come off as frustrating for the person you're referring to help you out. You've also seen instances where people maybe on passing out from NYSC, they really posted on Twitter, I have so skills, I've learned so things, and I'm interested in working in so career paths. Retweet for me, and they got jobs from there. So you need to get specific on what you want to do. If you can actually be specific on what sort of places you want to work, and it can help you. And most times, most recruitments that are done are also done based on referrals. What do I mean by that? It means that if someone trusts another person, maybe working in that company or is on the board of that company, right? They could actually recommend you for a job role, and you could get in from there. So ensure that you make use of your network very well. Then ensure that you follow up on applications, and this depends on the application style. Certain applications may not allow you to send emails to them. Maybe it could just be that you signed up on a certain portal, and that could make following up difficult. But if you know their social media handles, if you know their website, you can go ahead and follow up in a non-intrusive way, where you just formally address your mail to them and say, oh, that you applied for something a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and you simply wanted to follow up. Also, when you're following up, ensure that you read their instructions on follow up. Some companies are very clear on you not following up. They would say, don't send us any mail asking us anything about employment if you don't get a mail from us in 2 weeks. So if you have such information out there, there's no need following up. And once you've received an invitation for interview, you need to prepare for the interview. So get to understand about the firm. What is the firm about? They may ask you questions relating to how you think that your expertise can help their vision and mission move ahead. And if you don't know their vision and mission, you may miss the point. So take up time, go and visit their website, understand more about the company, ask some people that work in the company if you have the opportunity to, some detailed questions. All right. Then, if possible, make your own list of interview questions before you get to the venue. Like questions you may be asked, and then questions that you may want to ask them. Because in interviews, questions must not always be asked to you. There's always an opportunity for you to ask questions. So, have questions that you may want to ask them. It may be related to salary or work time or whether the work structure may be remote or part-time and things like that. All right. So have questions that you may want to ask as well. So prepare for questions that are likely going to be asked. It's going to be in terms of your job role. All right. So sometimes certain jobs require that you actually have to practically execute something there. Maybe show them something within a few minutes so that they are sure that you can actually carry out specific tasks when you get the job. So bear all of this in mind. Then, importantly, you need to get knowledge about the company's culture. So these are some of the things you could ask when you get in touch with people that are working in that company. What's the culture of a company like? Now, this is important that you ask somebody that may know about the company, because sometimes a website is not enough for you to know about the company's culture. Company culture, you may get to understand it better when you see how previous employees, previous staff talk about it. Now there are some online fora like Nairaland, etc., where certain things may be discussed. Maybe you could see that there was an interview with a popular media like Tech Point. They showed the company, showed how people work there and all of that. But why this could help, if you can get in touch with somebody that is already working there or worked there previously, you can get to know how things were done there. So the culture of a company is very important. You get to know what their organizational structure is. Is there a detailed way that they support employees to grow in their career, right? Are there opportunities for advancement in the career? These are the little things that are important for you to know, because they're going to be very beneficial for you. Right. Then you need to also remember that you can actually ask for some time to review a job offer before you start, before you accept or decline. Some people think that you get a job offer and then you don't get to decline. You can actually decline job offers, especially when you've evaluated the offer and it's not what you want. So what do you have to evaluate when you actually evaluating the job offer? You check in terms of the salary, the work benefits. Many jobs only offer salary and no work benefits. And while we're not living in an ideal world, ideally there should be salary, allowances, and work benefits. So you need to check, are these things in place? Are the benefits? Benefits could be free lunch, benefits could be insurance, medical care. You need to understand what is there for you. Check the work schedule, the work flexibility. Do you need to frequently travel? And you need to check it in terms of who you are as a person and your career path. So certain people may have health needs that we not allow them to be traveling frequently. So if you have a job offer that requires you to travel frequently, that means you may need to respond back to them stating this ahead of time. So it's always important that you understand all of these things, and it's okay for you to decline a job offer, especially when you, from your research, the work culture is not something that you like and the offer is not fantastic for you. You're supposed to be happy at the job, at least, because it's very essential for your success on the job. You're going to have to spend more time at work, so it only makes sense that you be at a job that you actually enjoy or you're happy at. And if you're going to be accepting the offer and you are working somewhere already, you can actually get to make them understand that you need some time gap before you come over. What do I mean by time gap? Depending on the contract that you work with your current job, right? You may be required to send in a notice, a resignation notice to your current organization before you go ahead to resign and join the new organization. So get to understand, what does your current workplace need in terms of notification for resignation. Don't go ahead and get an offer today and you're so excited that you tell them that you're resuming tomorrow, and then your current job does not have the notification that you're moving on to another job. So most times you can strike a bargain, maybe 2 weeks, 1 month, depending on what is required of you. So have you enjoyed this session so far? Have you? Because we are coming right to the end of this session. And this is a little task that you can do. It just needs you to understand where to put the right adjectives. And this task is quite fun and interesting because it shows what some job interviews that you go to would ask you for. Some job interviews that you go to may ask you to, do a few tasks, maybe in mathematics or English. They basically want to understand whether you can do certain things. Some job interviews don't go to the extent of the written sort, but some do. So fill in the blanks with the most suited adjective. At the sports, what do you think should be in number one? What adjective should be in number one? What adjective should be in number two? And all of that. Are you done with it? So you can pause this right now and do it. Let's see. Okay, so we're back, and this the answers. I hope you got it. If you didn't get it, why? All right, so we've come to the very end of this session. You should go take your post test at this link, and don't forget your CV will only be looked at for about 9 seconds. Make the read worthwhile. Make the read worthwhile. Remember all of the things that we talked about and go ahead and implement. So one thing I want you to do is to take out time and start preparing your own CV. Feel free to share it on Slack. Share it on Slack. You want other people to give you feedback. Your facilitators can also give you feedback. And bear in mind that if you are in the very technical part, there's this technical CV. So a mobile developer may need to write their languages in a different format. So create your own CV, share it at least before tomorrow so that you can get feedback. Create your own CV, share it as a document on Slack, on Help, ask for feedback so that others can give you feedback on your CV. So don't forget to take your post test here and see you on the next one. If you have questions, drop it in Slack.